The Talmud describes an angel who slid the tip of its wing under an entire city, tore it from the earth, and slammed it face down into the ground. This wasn't a metaphor, and the story you were told about Sodom, it's a cover-up, because the truth is not about a storm. It's about a single biological entity, an agent of such perfect and personal horror, the original authors had to hide it. They hid what it did, and they hid what it was. Deep within the forbidden pages of ancient texts lies the real account. A secret history of how the Archangel Gabriel, alone, descended into Sodom and performed an act of biological unmaking for sins so vile they infected the very soil the city was built on. This isn't a story of divine wrath, it's a story of cosmic horror. The official story. The Bible gives us 3 celestial visitors who come to Abraham. Their message is dire. The outcry from Sodom has reached the heavens. Judgment is already here. 2 of them proceed to Sodom, where Lot takes them in. The city swarms the house. Every man, from the youngest boy to the oldest elder, demands the strangers be handed over. Lot, in sheer terror, offers his own daughters. The visitors answer with a blinding light that sears the mob's eyes. Then, one command: run. Do not look back. Fire and sulfur rain from the sky, a neat, tidy divine cauterization. But this is where the sanitized version ends. The ancient sages were haunted by a question. What form did this judgment take? Their answer rips the story from the heavens and drags it down into flesh and bone terror. The thing that remained. 3 visitors, 3 purposes. Michael came to bless. Raphael came to heal. They were beings of light and mercy. They ascended. Purpose fulfilled. But the 3rd visitor was different. It did not speak of blessings. It did not offer healing. The air grew thin around it. The light seemed to bend inward where it stood. This was Gabriel, God's left hand. Not an angel of mercy, but the embodiment of Gomorrah. Absolute, unfeeling judgment. The enforcer. Michael and Raphael left. Gabriel remained. Alone. The atmosphere of the entire plain shifted, curdling as if the laws of nature were being slowly peeled back. The story was no longer about a divine mission. It was about what this one solitary thing was about to do to a city that had become a festering wound on the face of the earth. The civilization of pain. For centuries, Sodom's sin was reduced to something simple, but that was only the final symptom of a deeper biological sickness. The ancient texts paint a portrait of a society that had systematically re-engineered its own soul toward cruelty. Their paradise of wealth had made them pathologically hateful of weakness. They wrote sadism into their laws. Travelers were laid on special beds. If a man was too short, his limbs were torn from their sockets as they stretched him to fit. If he was tall, they hacked off his feet until he was the correct size. Their courts were a theater of the grotesque. If one man bludgeoned another, drawing blood, the bleeding victim was forced to pay the attacker a fee for the service of being bled. Compassion was the only true crime. The honey and the hive. The texts tell the story of a young woman. Some call her Paltith. Her crime was charity. She was caught smuggling bread to a starving man. For this, the people of Sodom devised a special punishment. They stripped her bare and smeared her skin with honey, a thick, sweet poison. Then they bound her to the city wall and left her for the insects. The bees came first, a humming cloud drawn to the sweetness. But then came the wasps, the hornets, the things that burrow. They covered her, her body writhing, becoming a living, vibrating hive of agony. Her final scream was not human. It was a sound stripped of everything but pure animal pain. A shriek that tore through the sky itself. A vibration of such profound misery that it is said to be the great outcry that finally triggered the unmaking. The city's debt of pain had just been called in. If this is already disturbing, subscribe now, because what Gabriel does next is far worse. The Unmaking. This is the nightmare Gabriel was sent to end. The biblical fire and brimstone wasn't the weapon, it was the aftermath. The Midrash describes an act of anatomical horror. Gabriel, acting alone, did not call fire from the sky. He approached the foundation of the cities themselves. He unfurled his wing, not a wing of feathers but a limb of shadow and bone, an appendage that defied geometry. And he slipped its razor-thin tip under the bedrock of the entire plain. A surgeon's scalpel sliding under diseased skin. With a single, silent, upward motion, he tore the whole civilization from the earth. He lifted it all: the houses, the streets, the stretching racks, the blood-soaked courts, the wall where the girl's body was still being consumed. He lifted it high into the air, turning it upside down. For a moment, the angels in heaven could hear the faint, confused sounds of that inverted world, the terrified barking of dogs, the crowing of roosters, all falling toward the sky. The Overturning. At the absolute peak of his ascent, Gabriel executed the judgment. He did not simply drop the cities, he overturned them. With a flex of that impossible limb, he slammed the entire landscape face down into the ground with the force of a dying star. It was not an explosion. It was an inversion, a physical, biological smashing of a corrupt reality into itself. The impact was so violent it shattered the very crust of the earth. The fire and sulfur the Bible speaks of was the planet itself bleeding, vomiting up its molten core through the wound where Sodom used to be. The destruction wasn't a storm from above. It was an annihilation from within, performed by a single, terrifying executioner who personally ripped the sickness out and ground it into nothing. You are left with two images. One is a distant storm of fire. The other is the deliberate, surgical act of a single being, a creature sent to a society that made a religion of pain, that turned kindness into a death sentence. And in response, it didn't just burn the city, it unmade it, turning its reality inside out with the tip of one wing. This isn't a moral lesson, it's a warning. Some corruptions of the soul are so absolute, so biologically wrong, that the only cure is complete and total physical inversion. It leaves you with one chilling question. What happens when our sins become so vile that the only thing that comes for us isn't mercy, but a surgeon? But Gabriel wasn't the only angel who executed judgment with his bare hands. What Michael did to the army of Sennacherib in a single night makes Sodom look like mercy. That story is soon. Let me know what you think in the comments below.